What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Patriots Pulse podcast. It's been a while once again. Before we get into anything, I apologize if I freeze. My camera's been buggy. Just want to put that out there in case Andrew has to be on the screen by himself. But before we get into things, Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing great, Carlos. Finally, in New England, the snow has melted. Got a little warmer out, but we came back down. But I'm just happy we're out of the 20 degrees, mostly 30-degree weather. So great news over here. Carlos, how you doing?
I'm doing good too. I mean, it's been a lot of Patriot stuff happening. A big rumor came out today that people have been excited about and talking about, including myself. But just personally, everything's been pretty good. Yeah, just school. Both of us with school, so that's part of the reason why we're not able to consistently go live. But when we do, it's definitely fun to talk ball with you. So I'm ready to jump into it.
Absolutely. You wanted to start off with AJ Brown?
I mean, we could.
All
We
right.
could. Do you want to share your
What do you
thoughts
thought
first?
of it?
Who should go first? Because I have some very opinionated thoughts, so I don't know if I want to derail it.
All right. I'll give my general
All right.
thoughts with it. I mean, obviously, AJ Brown would be a tremendous upgrade to this wide receiver room, and he would be the guy, that monumental piece that Patriots fans have long hoped for. I mean, Diggs had 1,000 yards last season. He was great, especially as a leader in the locker room, but he wasn't that coverage dictator necessarily. And AJ Brown is just one of the best receivers in the league. That's a pretty objective statement. But with that, I don't think they should be giving up 2027 first rounders for him. Howie Roseman is going to stand his ground, and I can't blame him for it. That's something he's notorious for. And he'd be a great guy to bring in, AJ Brown, but we'll have to see what that price will actually be. And yeah, so looking to see how that works out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, just going off of the draft picks thing, I'll stick with that first. I completely agree. I don't think you should give up a 2027 first. And even if they do have to pay a higher price, I'd rather have them give up a 2028 first if it's really going to go through on June 1st. So, with that being said, though, I genuinely want to give so much credit to Elliot Wolf because I feel like it's like such a obviously everyone thinks Howie Roseman is probably the best GM in the NFL, but I also think that it's like it's one of those things that everyone's just assuming that people just fall to whatever he says. Like just listen to whatever he says, and he always fleeces these other teams. That's why you have like Eagles fans going crazy on Twitter saying like, "Oh, he always gets what he wants," all this and that. Elliot Wolf has stood his ground. Like I actually have to give him credit. I'm I mean, I would assume I'm 90% sure he's the one making these phone calls and like in talks with him. They already have a prior relationship. So it's not like some big time GM talking to a guy that's in his second, third year of being a GM and he's just kind of dogging him for lack of a better phrase. I just think that he stood his ground. He hasn't budged on the price. Someone had mentioned, I forgot who it was. Some national insider mentioned that they even discussed like making part of the trade first before the draft and then the second half of it on June 1st, and that like Elliot Wolf completely shut that down immediately. Like there's some things that he's doing that I think it's like good that the Patriots haven't paid up for it. Or like given the asking price that the Eagles want. So I do think that he deserves a lot of credit right now. And if he's able to pull it off with, for example, a 2027 second and like a third or something like that in 2028, credit to him because I think that's not only a great deal, but I think that just shows that like he's someone that stood up to Howie Roseman. As much as people don't like Elliot Wolf, like I do think he deserves a lot of credit for his like management of this whole like negotiation process. And if they don't get him though, that's when I understand when people like can start talking bad. But it's looking like it's positive right now.
Yeah, honestly, if they get AJ Brown for a 2027 second and obviously a little more than that, that would be impressive in itself. Howie Roseman has all the leverage in this situation. He has AJ Brown under contract. I don't know if AJ Brown has formally requested a trade at all,
Mhm.
but I don't know. It's mostly just been kind of sideline antics and him like speaking out a little bit about him being frustrated with his role in the offense.
And how much he
And
loves the Patriots as well.
sorry, what did you say?
and how much he loves the Patriots as well. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
been even more than usual this past offseason.
On dudes on dudes, talking about how he used to be a crazy Patriots fan back in the day. But bouncing off of that, like,
Wait, before we switch off, I did
yeah,
want to mention one thing. I don't know if you saw the video of him yesterday that they asked him like, "What's your favorite or like most memorable Super Bowl moment?" And he brought
mhm.
up the Patriots versus Giants. That was put out by his agency. Like, I feel like they know exactly like what they're doing by like putting that out. Like, there's no way that he says the Patriots or he mentions anything about the Patriots and they think like, "Oh, this might stir the pot a little bit." Like, I feel like they knew what they were doing.
What do you mean his agency put it out?
I'm
Like
pretty
what
sure it was
was
put out.
the context of the post?
I It was literally just them asking him random questions, like
Okay.
recording him
Oh,
at their
so
like
that
main
was at
office.
Super Bowl weekend, and they just reposted it.
I thought it was Super Bowl weekend as well.
That's what I
That's
saw.
what it. Yeah, but the fact that his agency put it out, because I'm pretty sure what is he, CAA football, or I think that's what it's called. I can't remember what his agency's called. I need to find it right now because this is gonna bother me. But if you wanna, oh, here it is, here it is, here it is. Yeah, so CAA football, they're the ones that put out the Q&A with this was from the Super Bowl, but they put it out yesterday. And I think that like them knowing like what's going on with the Patriots and the Eagles and him mentioning the Patriots in a video, look at the uproar it caused on social media. Like I think they know what they're doing. This is like I feel like they've been subtly showing like yeah, like he doesn't want to be on the Eagles anymore, which is fine. I don't know why Eagles fans freak out about that and say like he loves it here and we're like his favorite people in the world. Like it's okay if he wants to trade. That's I don't understand why.
Well, I think, I mean, obviously, I'm not AJ Brown. I don't know what he's thinking, but
Mhm,
from just my perspective, it seems like a situation where he likes the team, he likes the fans, he likes being there. It's just his role on the offense has changed, and he's just not a fan of it.
And I also think it has to do with how much he loves the Patriots. Like he's getting towards the end of his career and he only has a few more years in his prime left. And if he could do that on his favorite team, once again, like we're not speaking for him. We don't know him and we don't know what he's thinking, but like I mean, I would assume that he would love to retire on his favorite team. Like that guy talks about his favorite team over and over and over again, and it's what it'll just be for him to never try to get on that team, and let alone now that his favorite head coach is coaching that team. I think everything's just
Yeah.
like falling into place with him. Um, I did want to mention this. A lot of people have been bringing up concern about his knee. Do you have any takes on that? Because I have a pretty hot take on it.
I am a little bit concerned, to be honest.
Mhm,
It's taken him out of a couple games the last few seasons, and that's part of the reason why I personally would not be willing, if I'm the Patriots, to give up a 2027 first. Um,
mhm,
Given the knee history, the knee injury, and then also just his tape last season, given that he was running routes that he really shouldn't have been running as much as he did. He should have ran. He should have been used in a more dynamic role than he was last season. The film was a little concerning in the sense of his overall production and just his effort,
mhm,
and that's part of the reason why I would not give up a 2027 first for
mhm.
AJ Brown. And I don't know what you think of that. What's your hot take?
Honestly, the knee thing, I do think it's real. I'm just not too worried about it because it hasn't like kept him out of multiple games for something or like for
There, yeah,
example. The other thing is, and I had mentioned this yesterday, um, I genuinely think a lot of this has been media driven, but like the front offices are feeding stuff to the media to push their narrative out to get the other side to budge. Like I think the Rams reported interest or rumored interest in him. I think that was fake. I honestly think that was just Howie Roseman trying to get the Patriots to budge because there was another team contending for AJ Brown. And
mhm,
then this report that came out like, oh yeah, the Rams pulled out because of this degenerative knee issue. I think that was the Patriots putting something out. So it could be like, look, like no one really wants him because of this, or like teams would be spooked by it, or like that's why we're not paying the price as well because we're taking that into account. I do think that it's a lot of like cat and mouse right now, and because of that, that's why I don't. buy too much into the knee issue. Obviously, as he gets older, yes, that might like play a factor, and he might have maybe like less seasons of his prime because of it. But at the end of the day, I do think that everything that we're hearing is being overblown, and it's being overblown on purpose by one side to get the other side to budge.
Yeah, and overall, bigger picture, what a move that would be if they bring in AJ Brown for Drake May. Like that's going
Yeah.
to be a connection Patriots fans would likely talk about for many years. And I mean, obviously that would just help Drake May a ton in his third
Mhm.
year, and hopefully for Pats fans, hopefully get them back to a Super Bowl. But with
Mhm.
that, I guess my question to you, Carlos, is what if they don't land AJ Brown? Because in my opinion, they unless they actually have a set deal in place for after June 1st, they shouldn't be entering this draft thinking to themselves that, oh, we're gonna get AJ Brown. Like,
Mhm.
no, you don't know that. Anything can happen. So if they don't get AJ Brown, I guess what are your thoughts on that? How do you think they should approach the draft?
Yeah, this is like one of the toughest parts of the whole offseason, that like we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, like how you mentioned, we don't know if there's a handshake agreement in place, but if there isn't, and you're still hoping that he's on the team, but then you don't draft a player and the trade falls through, I I mean, in our eyes, they'd be screwed. I know everybody would be upset about it, like them going into the season with this receiver core because it's just Romeo Dobbs instead of Stephon Diggs. But at the same time, I do think that the Patriots themselves wouldn't be too upset with that, just because they did sign Dobbs to a bigger contract. He's a young guy that they're gonna say like, "Oh, we think he could develop into a receiver one," all this and that. I could totally see them coming out with that angle, and that's kind of like their last resort. But I do think that the way the NFL is structured, it's not like the NBA that like you you draft a guy for another team and then you trade him to that team. Like that's not how it's, let alone with it being until June 1st. Like that's really awkward if you draft a guy and then trade him like a month later. Um, but I do think that this is going to be one of the toughest things to figure out. I would like for them to draft a receiver early on, but that would only mean that they're not getting him. Because if they do get him, but they also spent high capital on a receiver, I don't think that makes much sense considering like you just have Kyle Williams sitting
Yeah.
back there not getting enough reps. Efton Chisholm, I'm not saying that he's going to become anything special, but like that buries him as well. And then those are the only two guys that you really have under contract. Everyone else is like Booty's on the last year of his deal. Doug Pop is on the last year of his deal, and Matt Collins is already in the last year of his deal, and he's like an older guy. So it's a unique situation, but I do think the way they maneuver the draft is going to be telling.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was just about to bring that up. Saw you post about it earlier that what
Mhm.
they do at receiver in the first 3 rounds of this draft is going to be really telling of
Mhm.
whether or not AJ Brown will be a Patriot in the future or not.
Mhm.
But even with Diggs, and I think Dobbs is essentially just your Stephon Diggs replacement.
Mhm.
I have to give Dobbs a lot more credit for how savvy of a route runner he actually is than what I previously thought before he got here. And he's a lot more versatile. He was mostly used as an X outside receiver in Green Bay. I think he can be moved around the formation a lot more than that.
Mhm.
But you still need more. And that was the same opinion that I had with Diggs on this roster. You still need more at receiver. Diggs got doubled in the playoffs late in the season, and no one else could really make any serious contributions. Obviously, Keishon Boutte had his big touchdown against the Texans, but you look at the Super Bowl, aside from Pop Douglas being open downfield and Drake May not having the time to throw to him, no one really stuck out in that receiver core. So I think you do, if you can't land AJ Brown, I think you do need to draft a receiver round one, whether that be Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper out of Indiana. I need to look at Chris Bell. I kind of wrote him off with
I
the
love
knee
Chris Bell.
injury, but
I love Chris Bell.
I know he's a great prospect, but I wrote him off earlier just because of that injury. But seeing
Mhm.
some of the recent news around his progress is making me rethink that a little bit. But and I don't think I feel like Denzel Boston is a little redundant, or not necessarily redundant, but I think I'd rather Casey Concepcion at this point or Omar
Mhm.
Cooper. get a slot guy who can move around slot and Z spots. But I think you're gonna have to draft a round one receiver. I don't want them to start picking these day two receivers again because you already have that guy in Kyle Williams.
Exactly.
He's developmental
Yeah.
day two. So you need like a home. You need to spend big offseason capital at receiver in some sort of way.
Yeah, and honestly, I brought this up yesterday when I was a guest on the LFG podcast. Shout out to those guys. I did bring up like you can't. I don't think they're in the position anymore to just give guys reps to grow as like a receiver because I think they've ascended to a contending team now. I froze, didn't I? Sorry.
You did, but I
um,
can hear you. You're good.
I was just gonna say like I think they've just grown into this type of team that if they're contending, they're gonna leave people behind if they can't develop. And part of the reason why I don't want them to wait until like day 3 to draft a receiver is because those guys are just gonna get buried. It's gonna be another Kyle Williams situation that what I think Kyle Williams had less than like 200 offensive snaps played this year. If I'm not mistaken, I
I'd have to
vividly remember seeing
double
something like
check
that. But the reason I bring that up is just because like now if you bring in AJ Brown, for example, and you have Romeo Dobbs already, then that leaves one spot for Kayshon Boutte, Pop Douglas, Kyle Williams, Mac Hollins. Like, and if you throw another receiver into that, I'm sorry, but they're just screwed out of reps because you have much better receivers already, unless that rookie is able to perform at a high level early on. But you have to keep in mind this is a day 3 pick, like or a late day 2 pick, like someone that's going to need to develop. So I just think that it would be kind of weird for them to wait until day 3 or late day 2 to take a receiver because at that point it's another project. You already have one already in the pipeline, and it just makes me afraid that they're going to waste another pick.
Yeah, and I think a day three receiver, they would be focusing more on primarily a return guy than someone who can contribute
Exactly. Yeah.
lining up on offense. And I want to bring up another one of Michael Rodnick's comments. Do you see Douglas being the first one out if another big name receiver is brought in? I think it really depends on on the type of receiver that player is. Like AJ Brown isn't necessarily like doesn't live in the slot like Douglas does. But if they bring in a guy like Concepcion, then I think that conversation shifts, and Douglas maybe as good as he was last season with making those just small little plays, like blocking for Hunter Henry on that touchdown against the Panthers, basically blocking two guys. Given how
Mm-hmm.
small framed Douglas is,
Mm-hmm.
he made those gritty plays, but the production just wasn't there in a more crowded receiver room. And so, given that, I think he could be one of the cut candidates in the summer.
Yeah, and I will say like it just depends on what type of receiver they bring in. If they bring a slot like Casey Concepcion, that's Douglas being the first one out in my opinion. If you bring in someone like AJ Brown or like a Chris Bell, for example, I think that puts Kayshon Boutte's roster spot in jeopardy. Like I think, which is crazy to say, I do think that Mac Hollins has a safer spot than Kayshon Boutte or Pop Douglas. That would be my guess, just because I think that they really, really value his leadership, and him and Drake had a great connection. And at the same time, if he, let's say, like retires or decides to play one more year, that's going to be a much, much cheaper contract compared to having to keep these young guys like Boutte or Douglas in the building. So I do think that that plays a factor into it. I mean, it's just like a wait and see type of thing. I don't, we're not going to know until draft night, in all honesty, that's going to be like our sneak peek into what their plans are.
Yeah, no, exactly. And before we get carried away with more receiver talk, I figured we talked about Dobbs, one of the new free agency additions this season, or this offseason perhaps. I figured we could talk a little bit more about some of the additions on offense, transition to defense, and one of the big name additions on offense was left guard Elijah Vera Tucker from the Jets, 5th-year lineman, and he's had an injury history. He's practically missed half of
Mhm.
his career games that he could have played. He's missed, I'm pretty sure, 42 total career games
Yeah,
in 5 seasons.
it's something crazy.
Yeah, he had two, what was it, two torn triceps,
Yeah, and then a torn Achilles.
torn Achilles. Yeah, like this dude's been through it all, but he still finds a way to produce when he's on the field. It's kind of mind boggling. Very high risk, very high reward um, move by them. So, Carlos, what are your main thoughts about them bringing in Tucker?
Yeah, honestly, Tucker was by far my favorite signing. He was my favorite free agent offensive lineman, and they ended up getting him on a very, very good deal, in my opinion. I mean, I do think that some people were saying it was still a little bit rich, which I completely understand. But in terms of getting a potential all pro, okay, I won't say all pro, but Pro Bowl offensive lineman, left guard, I think that's the price to pay. Like you're banking on the talent, and if they can have Duron Mayo work his magic on him, then like they'll be in a great spot for years to come. And then since like with him being my favorite signing, I wanted to transition quickly to just who was your favorite signing, unless it was him as well.
My favorite signing, probably Kevin Byard.
Okay.
I Jalen Hawkins was a very, very fine safety for the team last season. Uh, you know, it'll be disappointing not to see the Cal duo out there and Woodson and Hawkins. But I mean, Kevin Byard at age 32 was first team All Pro for the third time in his career. He has a history with Mike Vrabel, and he had 7 interceptions last season.
Yeah.
I mean, true
League
ball
high.
hawk.
Yeah.
Kind of just replaces what Hawkins was doing. He was kind of yeah, he was a little bit of a ball hawk last season for the team, and I mean, this is just a veteran guy who's been in the league for a long time. He knows how to win. He knows how to just mentor team, help lead a team throughout an entire season, and I mean, that's the perfect complement, I think, out of this free agency class for Craig Woodson and in
Mhm.
terms of his development.
Yeah, and I do think that the way they designed the team just based off of their signings, I think they left themselves room to address, I guess you could say, that third spot for whatever position it is in the drafts. So it's like you left room for a AJ Brown or a rookie receiver. You left room for a tight end three, a developmental guy, because you brought in Julian Hill as your blocking tight end. You left room for a developmental safety behind Bayard because now it's not you have money tied into Jalen Hawkins for multiple years. Now it's just like a 1 year deal. If Bayard wants to come back on another 1 year deal, then you still have that young guy in the behind the scenes that is going to take over no matter what, given Bayard's age. And then you also like left room for. I mean, they've had interest in free agent or rookie running backs. You left room for that because you didn't sign a rookie running or sorry, a veteran running back. So I
Yeah,
do think that the way the roster is designed right now leaves them a lot of room for competition, especially in those third developmental or whatever it may be, like flex positions. So I really really like their signings. I really like that Kevin Byard signing, especially because now he can mentor whoever comes in next, as well as Craig Woodson. And I do want to also mention that I really like the way they handled the edge position. Maybe not the player exactly, because I would have loved for them to bring back Chase on. And
mhm.
no disrespect to Draymond Jones, I think he's a great player. But if you had brought both of them back, then where do the reps go if you decide to take a edge rusher? Because then you have Harold Landry, Draymond Jones, Caleb on Chase on. Those guys are going to get all the reps. Like I understand, like there might be an injury or something, but if you spend high capital on an edge rusher, he's not going to really play his first year if all those guys stay healthy. So I do think the way they handled it was beneficial for them in the long run and for sustained success.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like just with the way the roster is constructed and the moves they're making. And Elliot Wolf said it in February that edge was, or just pass rushers in general, are it's a really deep class for that. You can get
Mhm.
really productive guys on day two, even early day three, that can make contributions to your team next season. And I
Mhm.
think it's pretty telling, like you said, that not re-signing Chase on for 1 year for only $12 million was pretty telling that they're gonna at least draft. Well, I think they're gonna double dip in this draft
Mhm.
for a pass rusher. And yeah, Draymond Jones, he's more of a mauler than a speed rusher. So I think in the draft they're going to try and target a speed rusher, and we'll get to some of the guys that they've had in
Mhm.
for 30 minutes later. I know R. Mason Thomas really stands out in that sense, just what he is as a player.
Mhm.
But yeah, and also Reggie Gilliam is another name that, I mean, we're kind of just saying we like all the Patriots signings, but I have to say I do like a lot of their signings, especially the more notable ones. It'll be great to have a fullback who has just years of experience in the NFL playing that position. You don't, not a knock to Jack Westover, but he transitioned from tight end to fullback after Brock Lampy what ended up on season ending IR over the summer. So
Mhm.
this is going to open up the run game a lot more. A run game that was well into the bottom half of the league, and I'm pretty sure rush EPA last season. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, this is just going to open up a lot more on the ground, and I really like the signing, Carlos.
Yeah, I mean, the what's funny enough, I think the main reason why I didn't like the Reggie Gilliam signing was because I really wanted to see Brock Lampy develop, but I can't like that's not something that's, like a valid argument, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
I will say if we want to point out like bad moves or questionable moves, I definitely think the Julian Hill contract was the most questionable thing they did.
yeah,
Like if there were two I had to pick out, it's just not re-signing Caleb on Chason given his age and his production, and then the why did my mind just blank? Oh, the Julian Hill contract. Sorry. So I think the way they designed the Julian Hill contract, yes, it's like a 2-year deal essentially, but I mean, the Dolphins of all teams didn't even want to give him the tender, and then you sign him to like
yeah,
a $5 million a year contract, and only 3 million of that is incentive, so he can make up to 18 million. So it's it's that's the only questionable thing, but at the end of the day, it's like barely eating up any of your cap space. And if he produces, he produces. Like you have him down for
yeah.
3 years.
And Elliot Wolf mentioned that he sees some versatility in Hill to be a pass catcher as well, and or in addition to just being strictly a blocking tight end. But Myers, like his first 3 seasons with the Dolphins, he caught under 300 yards and didn't catch a single touchdown. He
Mhm.
doesn't have that experience. That's something that they're going to have to not necessarily teach him, but kind of guide him along the way as he progresses into that role. But at that point, I think this team would have been better off at just paying a little extra money for a Charlie Kohler, Kate Otten, who was there in free agency.
Kate
And we
Otten,
don't
yeah, that's
know,
that's the one. Yeah,
yeah, we don't know the conversations that were being had, but assuming that they didn't want to offer as much or something like that, like I feel like it would have been more beneficial for them to go that route than kind of settling for a guy like Hill. Not a knock
yeah,
to Hill.
and
I just
exactly.
there were some better options.
Like he just hasn't shown it yet, like at least not consistently. So it's like you mentioned, like a Charlie Kohler, for example, like he only made 3 million more a year than what Julian Hill got. Like if you
Mm.
thought that 3 million difference was gonna like affect the way your roster is constructed, like based off the cap, then so be it. But at the same time, it's like I would have paid an extra 3 million a year just to get like a established tight end that's done his job consistently throughout the year. So that yeah, that's the one thing that it or the one move that I find a little bit questionable, but besides that, I do really like their offseason, and like how I mentioned earlier, it's like the way they've constructed the roster allows them to still be flexible come draft night, and then even if they don't address one of those positions draft night, they can bring in a veteran to compete for that spot.
Yeah, and I just want to add too that I thought they could have re-signed Tonga for that
Mhm.
number, but I'm a little more shocked in a way. Not necessarily shocked, but I was a little surprised by them not bringing back Madarian Lowe for
Yeah.
number that he got. What was it, like 2 years, 6 mil?
No, I believe it was. I thought it was 12 mil, like so 6 mil a
12?
year.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I would have given that to Lowe personally to be your
Okay.
backup left tackle behind Will Campbell, who had an injury last season, who had some struggles after he returned from injury
Mhm.
and couldn't really move as well because a lot of the things with Will Campbell when he was coming out, his strengths were his just lateral agility and ability to move quicker for the position, and that was hampered when he came back after his injury. But I thought they could have given Lowe that contract, and because now you're either just waiting to re-sign Thayer Munford, or now you're looking for a backup left tackle again.
Yeah, and I do think that Marcus Bryant has a shot to take over that role. I think it was Mass Live reported that he has some fans inside the building that they think that he can develop into that swing tackle role, but he's a 7th round pick. You can't have like such high expectations for him.
Yeah,
And at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they address that need again in the draft, like going for like I'm gonna be annoyed. I'm putting this out there right now. I'm gonna be annoyed if they draft like a right tackle prospect, for example, in let's say the 2nd round, and then everyone's freaking out saying like, "Oh, what if he switches over to left and takes over Will Campbell's?" Like, I'm assuming people are gonna do that already. I just want to put that out there. I'm gonna be annoyed about it, but I do think that if they go for 2 tackles, like one high pick that's a right tackle and then like a developmental left tackle or swing tackle in the later rounds, I think that would be a great outcome draft night.
yeah. I mean, it would be, but I think they kind of just created a hole that they have to fill in the draft that they could
True.
have filled in free agency for relatively cheap.
Is there any veteran that's still out there that you think could step in?
I need to pull up the list. I'm gonna do that.
And yeah, because like I'm thinking like let's say they do. I mean, there's a Taylor Decker still out there. Cam Robinson is still out there. I believe Cam
Okay, I'm
Robinson
not
is.
doing Cam Robinson personally. He had a great career. He was a really impressive player for a few years, but I think his time's up.
Yeah,
Uh,
Taylor Decker, Cam Robinson, James Hudson, Kelvin Beachum, Cornelius Lucas, DJ Humphreys. Like these are guys that Calvin Anderson, Patriots legend. I mean, I think there's definitely guys that if they can't address that need in the draft, or if like maybe they're not liking the way it's looking, you don't want a revolving door like in terms of like a backup left tackle. And that would
yeah,
only be worst case scenario because Will Campbell might not be playing for some reason. But it's this like yeah, it's one of those things that you just want to cover your bases before it actually happens. Um, so there are some options, not great options, but I think that if they want the most upside and like it's like the riskier thing to do, which and what I'm trying to say is like it's riskier to bring in a young guy as that swing
yeah,
tackle, but it could be the most rewarding just for like the long term side of things. So it that's gonna be something to watch out for. I do agree.
yeah. And while we're on the topic of just tackles in general, let's kind of segue into just the top 30 visits that the Patriots have hosted or are scheduled to host.
Mhm.
One of the names, Carlos, I don't know if you have read up on Travis Burke out
Yeah.
of Memphis. 6'9", 325 pounds.
Yeah. He's
That is
a big
a
dude and he
a
has
behemoth
experience
on the
at both
ball.
tackle spots too.
He played both tackle spots, you said?
Yeah. Yeah, he's played left and right.
Yeah, I mean, so they have him coming in on a visit, according to Justin M.
Justin.
NFL of Sports Illustrated. Uh, he's more of a developmental end of day 3 pick, maybe a UDFA. I mean, if he's a UDFA, sure, like bring him in, but
Yeah.
I don't see how he's much different than Marcus Bryant in a
Yeah.
way. They're both very similar players in terms of just their size, their lateral movement. Um, so I don't see how that's really any different. But hey, UDFA, sure, why not? Just bring him in.
Yeah, and I do think just like the amount of interest that they've had in him says something. Just going off of last year's draft class, I believe most, if not all of them, said that they met with the Patriots on a 30 visit.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and some of those we didn't find out until after the draft and they like said it, but that's telling. Like, some people bring in these guys just to see like their medicals or kind of see like if
Yeah,
they have any red flags, like clear those things up. But if they're also bringing these guys in because they have serious interest in them, because they're like, you know what, like these guys are at the top of our board, that's telling. So it's someone like, um, right? His name's Travis, right? Travis Burke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Someone like Travis Burke, they've already gone to his pro day, and or they're scheduled to go to his pro day, one of the two, and they're gonna talk to him there. They already have like a meeting set up there. Then they're also bringing him in for a 30 visit. That
Mhm.
tells you a lot. That same thing goes for who was the other running back? Mike Washington. Like
Yeah.
they spent an extensive amount of time with him at his pro day. They went out with him the night before to go over film and all this and that, and then they also met with him at the combine. So those guys that they have like serious interest in are the ones that we should really keep an eye out for. And if we're just sticking on the topic of tackles, he seems like someone that they have shown heavy interest in that could become a Patriot day 3.
No, exactly. And 30 visits are the draft meetings fans should really be paying attention to, like you said, and especially if there's multiple meetings throughout an off season, that's something to really be paying attention to. Uh, have you looked at, or just based on the 30 visit list, are there any guys that other than Burke that like stand out to you in any sort of way?
Are you talking about tackles or just in general?
Just in general, the 30 visits, I believe there were
Um,
some others.
the my absolutely like favorite one is by far Adam Randall. I genuinely love him as a prospect because I think that he's one of those low risk, high reward type of guys in early day 3, maybe even late day 3. And he also fills a need for them because they need someone to fill in that RB3 spot. As much as I love Lan Larison, like you have to also keep in mind that like this dude's 6'3", 223 pounds, and
Yeah,
he's a converted receiver as well. So it's like he provides them a lot of what they need at that RB3 spot. Um, so I would say he stands out the most. And then of course, if we want to go with edge, R. Mason Thomas would be like my favorite one as well because he's a legit possibility at 31. He fills a need for them. He can easily develop in terms of just like he doesn't need to be like an every down type of player. I think
yeah,
that's part of the reason why they brought Draymond Jones as well, just so like if they have a rookie, like they switch out on early downs, late downs. Um, so he would be the one that stands out too. I think those two would be my favorite. Yeah.
yeah. And like you said, our Mason Thomas is a guy that's probably, at least in his rookie year, going to be strictly a pass rusher, like a situational
Hmm.
pass rusher. I don't know that he's going to be a three down player for you, especially his rookie year.
Hmm.
He's a, he's not like undersized for the position, but he has a smaller frame, and he's not really great at setting the edge necessarily. And also, another edge they met with or pass rusher is Romello Height out of Texas Tech. Kind of the same ordeal, except Romello, he's R. Mason Thomas is a fringe day one projected pick, and
Hmm.
Romello is more of a day two guy. He's surprisingly versatile in the sense that he can drop back into covers a little bit. And that's not something
Hmm.
you typically see out of pass rush specialists. Like we saw that a little bit with Matthew Judon when he was in New England. So I mean that would be a fun player to bring in.
Hmm.
But again, I think it is important that they bring in a running back like Adam Randall in the third in the day three. Geez,
Hmm.
um, like they letting go of Gibson. You need another returner if you're looking for someone who primarily does that, or if you're just looking for someone to take some of the load off of Ramondre Stevenson if he's putting in a lot of work, or really just fill in when there's injuries.
Yeah, and I do think that just going off of combine meetings as well, those don't have as much weight. But that report from Mass Live came out at the combine that they had spoken with Zion Young as well,
Yeah,
and that a lot of people in the building really like him. So that's another name to look out for. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if, let's say, they do pick him, and after the draft, they're like, "Yeah, we had a 30 visit with him." Like, he's someone that I could easily see them showing interest in even outside of the combine. So those 30 visits, yeah, you have to keep them in mind. And now it's one of those instances that you no longer have Bill Belichick or you don't have Gerard Mayo, and it's going to be one of those, like, just judging off of last draft, those guys that they picked were guys that should have gone where they went, or they were like
yeah,
guys that dropped like a round or two because of some red flags, and they just said, you know what, like we're going to bank on the upside. It's no longer going to be UT Chattanooga in the first round that no one else expected. It's going to
yeah.
be guys that you would expect to go where they're going.
No, exactly. And another reason why I believe that they're going to really hammer home on a pass rusher in this draft, or multiple pass rushers in this draft. I mean, in addition to Elliott's comments back in February about them viewing this as a really in-depth class. They met
Mhm.
with Dennis Sutton at a Penn State at the Senior Bowl, T.J. Parker at the Senior Bowl, and then a lot of different guys at the NFL Combine. Like you said,
Mhm.
Zion Young. They met with Akeem Mesidor out of Miami, Cassius Howell, Texas A&M, Kayron Crawford, Auburn, um, and yeah. Then we just mentioned the guys on the 30 visits from Ella Height and R. Mason Thomas. So really seems like they're going to target an edge rusher. And also going back to our conversation about Kevin Byard and him being on a 1 year deal, which allows them to seamlessly like plug in rookie safety. Well, rookie safety this year, but then after Byard's done, they can plug him in into Byard's
Yeah.
role. They had Toledo safety Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo on or scheduled to have him on a 30 visit. And then they're also planning to meet or have met with, I hope I'm not butchering his name, Zaki Wheatley out of Penn State. Both of those guys, Wheatley's day two. McNeil Warren is probably, I think he's going to go before 31. He's a really impressive player. He's
Mhm.
more like a big nickel guy. He can, so he can play like Del Pettis' role on dime packages. And he's very versatile. He's had experience, mostly like again as a big nickel in the box. He's not your typical like deep safety like Wheatley is, but I mean he's a hard hitter. He's a great open space tackler. He's forced 9 fumbles, I believe, at Toledo in his
Mhm.
collegiate career. Like really impressive player, really impressive resume.
Yeah, I do think that, I mean, it's telling that every single position that we've seen brought up is a position that they would most likely draft, and it's like a need. Um, I think the only one that doesn't really fit that narrative, but it's not like surprising at the end of the day, is like a Haynes King that they met with at Georgia Tech's pro day. Like that's the only one that I feel like has stood out in terms of like, oh, yeah, that's not necessarily a position of need, but if they took a third QB and then like released Dobbs and then had May, DeVito, and insert rookie, like that wouldn't be shocking. So it's telling the positions that they're looking at.
Yeah, and one last 30 visit that they have set up is with, according to Ryan Fowler, is with another name I'm really hoping that I do not butcher is uh, Dazon Dazon Stribling out of Old Miss. I really hope. Are you laughing because I said that wrong?
Yeah, I because I'm glad you're the one that has to say it because I'm not gonna say it.
So, anyways, receiver out of Old Miss, 6'2", 207 pounds. He ran a 4.36 at the NFL Combine. Um, I guess Carlos, what are your impressions of him just overall as a player?
I honestly haven't looked into him much. I do think that he's just a traits type of player. He didn't have much production or like eye-catching production in college, but they are looking at these types of guys that would be X receivers or like these speedy guys. Because surprisingly enough, this draft is filled with a lot of X receivers that have speed. Like you go with like him,
Yeah,
Chris Brazel, Chris Bell as well. Like there's guys that are bigger body. Jeff Caldwell, who like he didn't have like almost any production. There's a Ted Hurst as well. Like these are all like bigger guys that have shown that they can be vertical threats and just run past people. So them meeting with him, I think, is kind of like an indicator. Like, okay, if AJ Brown, even if he comes in, that's someone that they could take like early day three, and he could
yeah,
develop. Like, even though like I mentioned earlier, like I wouldn't want that to be the case, but it is like a possibility. Like that's the type of guy that you want to take that dart throw at and bank on the traits rather than the production in college.
exactly. And this is going to be a comparison people don't want to hear, but just bouncing off your like what you were saying about him being a traits guy, just a really impressive like athletic build and just
Mhm.
his physical talent. Um, and those are the type of guys that you are looking to throw a dart on a board at and on day
Yeah.
three. kind of like Javon Baker. I know people don't want to hear it,
Yeah.
but Javon Baker, he was that traits guy. Like he had so much athletic and physical talent. It was just if he could put it all together. That didn't pan out in New England, but again, those are the guys that you want to take dart throws at.
Yeah, and that's gonna be day 3. Like, you're either banking on production or you're banking and, like, maybe those guys fell due to red flags, but you can also bank on the traits and the athletic ability. So someone like Javon Baker in comparison to someone like Kayshon Boutte, who they took in the 6th round and it worked out, like, that dart throw worked out.
Yeah,
So, there's gonna be guys like that. Like I said earlier, my worry is just about, like, them being able to develop and get those reps that they need. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you wanna get these guys that are going to be under contract when you have 3 receivers on the last year of their deal. I get it. Like, that makes sense.
yeah. And I believe that wraps up our kind of draft preview talk. Is there anything, any other Pats news on the top of your mind you want to get off your chest before we end the show
Um,
today?
Honestly, I think the only thing I could really think about is just I want the AJ Brown thing to just happen already. Like, or just get some sort of confirmation about it because it's going to be a story for the next couple months. But besides
Yeah,
that, I do think that this draft is going to be one of the more entertaining drafts just because, like how you mentioned, I made that tweet earlier today. Like, whatever they do in the draft is going to be very telling about what could happen June 1st or if nothing's going to happen June 1st. So, um, it's going to be one of those that everyone's going to be microanalyzing the moves they make and discussing like why they made those moves. But at the end of the day, I think the trajectory this team is on, I think the way they're building the team itself is going to be very exciting for years to come.
exactly. I mean, they have the foundation of now a really impressive roster they can continue building off of. Now, I do think I mean, obviously they put themselves in that position in the Super Bowl, but there's still not glaring holes. Well, there's a couple glaring holes, but there's still a lot of holes that they need to fill.
Mhm.
That roster last season wasn't like your typical championship level roster that you've seen in the past with the Chiefs or the Eagles. Eagles
Yeah.
were one of the most well-rounded rosters I've seen in a long time in the Super Bowl. Um, but all these improvements, that all these moves that they're going to make, is probably going to bring them one step closer to going back to the Super Bowl. It's going to be a very difficult thing to do, but so far the moves they've made in free agency, they all necessarily make sense. Some are just there's some moves are kind of just replacing guys that they felt they could have upgraded from. But yeah, as we look towards the draft, we're going to hear a lot about AJ Brown. We're going to have to put all those little puzzle pieces together unless something comes out in the meantime. But yeah, that is where
Yeah.
we are at. And with
And
that, I
re-sign
think
Christian
that ends
Gonzalez.
our resign
Just
Christian
re-sign
Gonzalez.
Gonzo.
That's the whole priority right now. Not even the draft. Just get him under contract. He's going to command a lot,
Yeah.
but
Just pay him whatever he
we should
wants.
we should pay,
Yeah.
it pretty quickly. Like give him a blank check. Say, all right, who just got extended again? Remind me.
Trent McDuffie.
Or Trent McDuffie. Yeah, like, all right, give me a couple million more than McDuffie.
Yeah.
Like, give a blank check. But yeah, so that's where we're at, and I think that ends our discussion for today. Me and Carlos will let you know when we go live again. We're gonna try and get on a consistent schedule. But yeah, so we will let you know, and I'm gonna do a shameless plug here to end off the show. If you haven't seen it already, you can visit the top of my Twitter profile at NestPGS. I have a Patriots draft prospect kind of like interest tracker. Just it's a whole recording log of who the Patriots have met with, whether it be at the American or Legacy Bowl to 30 visits, the combine, and there's a lot of little hyperlinks in there for stats, relevant bio information. So yeah, if you're interested in that, just check it out on my bio. And yeah, with that, I guess we can end off here. Carlos, any final words?
Nothing much. Just go Pats. Thank you guys for listening.
All right. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. And we will let you know when we go live again.